start with scale. So what scale does is essentially enlarges or reduces selected objects, keeping the proportions of the object after scaling. This can be as simple as, let's erase these. Actually, let's keep these. Let's erase this one. So let's use this previously fillet example. So I'm going to type SC for scale. That's the shortcut, and then the full command is SCALE, scale. Very similar to other modifiers. It's asking what we're scaling first. So select objects. You can select it before you start the command as well. Second, very typical as we have with most other commands, specify your base point. Now, this is going to determine from what point we are scaling from. So you can see, obviously, if I snap to this midpoint, we're scaling from there. If I am going from a corner, it's scaling from here. So your base point is going to determine where you're scaling from. SC, let's select this object again. Specify base point. Let's use the midpoint over here. So here's where these things start becoming very important with the subcommands, or essential. And this is why I grouped rotate in this lesson as well, is we can input a scale factor, meaning if I want this to be half as big, after I selected my base point, I can type 0.5, and it's half as big. I could also select this, scale, base point, simply move this around and click wherever, and it's scaled. But the way that we're going to use it quite frequently, select, scale, base point, is I'm going to, after I click my base point, I'm going to type R for reference, enter. And now I'm going to say, I want this distance to be a certain size from what it currently is. So I click base point, point I'm moving, and then I'm typing in a new number. So let's first, this is currently 20 feet long. Scale, base point, R, enter reference, same base point, click here. I don't know what the factor is from 20 feet to 13.5 feet off the top of my head. But we don't need to if we use the reference, because what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, I want the distance from here to actually be 17, let's say 13.5 feet. So I enter it. Now this went from 20 feet to 13.5 feet. We're going to use this a lot, these reference points, because it's easier to adjust something to specific numbers than to draw something complicated and then get it right. So prime example, and this is exactly what we want to use here. Oh, there is one other option in here, I guess, if you're interested in doing that. Select this, scale, base point, copy. Now I can scale or make a copy scale based off of that base point. I don't use that too often, but I'm sure you can make some really neat designs with it. So the big thing for scale that we got to cover right now to push forward with our base drawing is we do have a graphic scale down here in the corner. Now, I didn't tell you all what size or scale to insert this drawing at. Here is where we set that. So if you've got a drawing that you're not sure its printed scale, sometimes you get scanned drawings that might be a little off. So you can't set a scale when you insert it because it may have gotten scanned slightly bigger or slightly smaller. That's why I always encourage everybody to have a graphic scale on your drawing, because we can always use this as a reference to scale everything off of. So if we select everything we've drawn in here, I'm going to type SC for scale. I'm going to then use this 0 and this 20 to scale everything in our drawing, because I've already selected everything. So I'm going to click here, relatively in the middle. Again, we're kind of eyeballing this a little bit. So I click there, R, not moving my mouse, R, enter, clicking here again, holding down Shift, going out to the midpoint of this 20 line, clicking here, and then typing in 20 feet. So it got a lot bigger from where we were. Now if I go in here and I type DI for distance, and I go from 0 out here, I'm at about 20 feet. So I didn't hit the exact points, but we scaled it correctly. Now, for example, if we go in here and check some distances on some of our stairs that we'll be tracing, you know, they're coming in at 18 inches, 12 inches, depending on where it is and depending on what it's doing. But now our base drawing is at full size. So all of our drafting we're going to do on this from here on out is going to be as accurate to full size as possible. Especially while we're tracing, we're going to use the drawing to indicate to us what lengths actually are based off of integers and as whole numbers as possible.